Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon, those in India, and good morning for those in Sweden. Warm welcome to Mobility X Lab webinar. My name is Yun Choi, working as project manager at Business Sweden, and I'll be guiding you through the webinar today. This webinar is hosted by Business Sweden. We're commissioned by Swedish government and industry to help Swedish companies to grow globally, but also to attract international companies to invest and expand in Sweden. We have 40 offices globally, and 2 of them are in India, Delhi and Bangalore. We have invited you today, the Indian startups within the mobility sector, to introduce the Swedish Mobility X Lab, which is a unique collaboration platform founded by 6 global companies, including Volvo and Ericsson. We'll begin today's webinar with Claes, the program manager at Mobility X Lab, who will introduce the background of Mobility X Lab. Then we have Michael Schön from Volvo Cars, who will deep dive in the 4 areas that they're focusing on: affordable AI, electromobility, in-cabin tech, and sensor software innovation. Unfortunately, a representative from Ericsson could not join today, so we'll have a shorter panel discussion with our 2 panelists from Volvo Cars, Michael Schön and Carolina Bjurehed. Instead, we'll have a longer Q&A session. We received a lot of questions from the registration already. Thank you very much for that. But there's also a chat function below the screen where you can share your immediate question and comments. So we hope that you have active participation, and don't forget to put your name and organization for a reference afterwards. So without further delay, Claes, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Yun. Hi everyone. I'm Claes Radiewski from Mobility X Lab, and I am primarily responsible for the startup program of Mobility X Lab. So everything from new startups to doing the actual projects together with the startups and partners in Mobility X Lab. But I'll explain a bit more of what we do at Mobility X Lab. Basically, the setup Mobility X Lab, we're founded by our 6 corporate partners. So it's Ericsson, Volvo Cars, Volvo Group, SEFT, Veoneer, and Zenseact, all global players within automotive, connectivity, transportation. What the idea behind Mobility X Lab is to join forces together, 6 partners stronger than one, is the basic idea here. The partners went together and created Mobility X Lab with a goal in mind, and to become better at startup collaborations, but also creating the future of mobility together. So what we're about, of course, it's from a partner perspective. We of course have 3 areas that's relevant here. We look for smart collaborations with startups. That's one of the aims. We look for new innovations, and it's also for these partners to stay relevant in an ever-changing landscape. So a landscape that's changing super fast, and automotive industry that's going through extreme change today. We're located in Gothenburg, Sweden. Pretty small city, maybe with Indian standards, the 2nd largest in Sweden. The focus of Gothenburg is on the automotive industry. We're home for Volvo Cars. We're also home to Volvo Group, as I said, with the trucks and buses. So a strong focus on the automotive sector here in Gothenburg. A lot of R&D created and developed here in Gothenburg. Mobility X Lab situated within walking distance from our partner offices. Of course, a key location for us. We can skip this one. Jumping straight into the startup offer or the startup program that we have here at Mobility X Lab. We're not an accelerator, we're not an incubator. What we do is that we focus heavily on the actual value creation together with the partner in the startup. So we tend to focus on the projects that you can do together with the industry partners. When you get admitted to Mobility X Lab, you're admitted for 6 months. And during those 6 months, you go, you have the focus of entering into some kind of commercial agreement. That's the end goal of our program. So basically, when you enter into our first stage, that we call it. It's a discovery phase where you and the partners together look on how you can work together. So basically scoping a kind of proof of concept, a pilot or something like that. The other phase after you've scoped your project together with the partners is to validate. So basically executing that project. And of course that can be a couple of weeks up to several months. And the last stage of Mobility X Lab is the acceleration part, where you actually have commercial or go into a commercial partnership or agreement with the partners. So this is the basic setup. It can be from 6 months up to 12 months, this period that we have. But it's kind of lightweight. We focus on 3 key events during the program. So it's a kickoff, a review and progression review day in the middle, and then a demo day at the end. So those are the 3 key events that we usually see startups coming into Sweden for, but now of course we will run it all virtually. What's a bit different from Mobility X Lab and from other programs is that to be admitted to Mobility X Lab, you need to have the interest of at least 2 partners. Basically, that means that when you enter into Mobility X Lab, you have at least 2 potential projects or potential customers at the end. We do see a lot of startups having maybe 3 or 4 partners that are interested in your technology or company as well. So the basic overview, and please do ask questions during the Q&A as well. As I said, we have the 3 phases that we focus on. Of course, the commercial part is super relevant and super important for us. Taking a deeper look at Mobility X Lab and what stands us apart from everyone else. What we tend to lean on is the heavy engagement from our industry partners. We're a small and lean and mean team from Mobility X Lab side, just 5 people. But what we do have is that we have an extremely engaged partner corporate partners. So we have a steering board, we have a management team that we meet once a week, we have a marketing team, and on a weekly basis, I would say that there's between 40 to 60 people working actively with some kind of project connected to Mobility X Lab as well. So we have deeply engaged partners, which is huge in terms of the offer towards startups. So if we try to sum up the startup offer, what we offer is a potential partnership. So you get the chance to work with several partners during the time in Mobility X Lab. You get extremely deep access into the partner companies. What you also get is for every partner company that votes you into Mobility X Lab, you get one dedicated contact person that's kind of a project leader from the partner side. Or if you, for example, start working with Volvo Cars, you will end up with a person that's responsible from Volvo Cars side to make this a success as well. It also comes with some attached like time and resources. So when you get that, yes, you know that Volvo Cars, for example, they want to work with you guys, and they have the manpower to do it as well. From the Mobility X Lab side, you get product support. So we are here and part of the process as well. We make sure that you and the partners progress in your collaborations. We make sure that if there's any hiccups, we solve them. You all know that there's a huge difference in how companies operate between a startup and a corporate partner, and that's where we come into the action as well. So we make sure that we mitigate those challenges that might arise. You startups, you also get access to our global network with investors, with partners outside our organization. You get increased visibility. We have some services, for example, from AWS, and you also have the possibility to apply for an industry mentor if that's something that's interesting for you. Last but not least, as I said, we're not an accelerator, we're not an incubator, so we don't have any fees and we don't take any equity from you guys. Industry-led partner selection, zero equity, as I said, and we as Mobility X Lab, we're not owned by the partners, we're initiated by the partners, but we're a neutral entity. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in, that we're a neutral platform and we'll focus on the innovation part between the startups and our industry partners. So looking a bit on the results, 47 startups right now from 12 countries. We took in 7 startups about 1 month ago. So looking at the other number, 40 startups, that's done about 58 proof of concepts together with the partners. We had 10 commercial partnerships between the partners and startups. Our startups are raised roughly 300 million USDs, which we are incredibly pleased with. A lot of different areas: security, computer vision, of course, a huge focus on AD and ADAS from our current portfolio. We do have some hardware, but mainly we're looking on startups that have some kind of software solution or hardware enabled software, maybe. And what we're here today for, of course, we have an open application right now. We're looking for startups that are addressing 4 key areas. So in-cabin technology, affordable AI, electromobility, and sensor software innovation. These 4 areas has been created together with our industry partners. So basically, we've done a few deep dives with all the partners. We've come up with a huge list of interesting areas, and then we boil it down to 4 areas that everyone feel comfortable that, yep, this is the ones that we're seeking new startups for this term. So if you feel that you're addressing these 4, then you should definitely apply to Mobility X Lab after this webinar as well. I'm just showing this timeline. We are going to kick off our next batch in August. So there's a bit of a time frame before we start the next batch, and hopefully maybe we can be in Gothenburg by then as well. But that's everything from me. I'm available for questions in the Q&A part, but now I will leave the mic to Mikael Schön from Volvo Cars, who can give you a bit of more of a deep dive into the technology areas and the technology focus from Volvo Cars side.
Thank you, Claes. I will share my screen. Can you just let me know, Claes, when you can see it?
Looks good.
Okay, good. I will also minimize this one. So thanks for inviting me here. So my name is Mikael Schön. I work at the Volvo Cars Innovation Department. So I'm going to give you a 15-minute introduction to what we are working with within the future outlook within the innovation domain. So the agenda is the following: a brief introduction, talk about the innovation and advanced engineering activities at Volvo Cars, the new business and technology landscapes steering the innovation, and then following with the Q&A session. Brief introduction of myself. So I work at the Volvo Cars Innovation Department. I've been working here for, well, almost 4 years. My background is as an aerospace engineer. For 20 years, I've been working within the European Space Agency and international governmental agency, development of climate satellites, scientific satellite, Mars rover rockets, etc. So I started to work with as project manager for the development of the next generation autonomous drive computer at Volvo Cars. And when that prototype was developed in collaboration with NVIDIA, I moved over to the innovation department so that we could maximize the potential of the innovation on this new platform. So Volvo Cars is at the forefront of innovation and was recently ranked as #1 by J.D. Power, which is an American data analytics marketing company. And this was based on consumer surveys. There are two types of innovation. We have business innovation and product innovation. When we talk about innovation, most people think about maybe technology, but we're also looking into new ways of doing business. We have now 4 megatrends that is disrupting the traditional automotive industry. We have the electrification, driven by legislation and also consumer demands for more sustainable vehicles. We have connectivity and digitalization. We have autonomous drive. And we also have shared mobility or new mobility. Currently, the strongest emphasis is now on electrification and connectivity. In addition to these 4 megatrends, we have also Volvo Cars' ambition, and that is freedom to move in a personal, sustainable, and safe way. I'm going to elaborate a bit more later in the presentation what we mean about this, but first we can see a short clip so you get an impression of what we mean. Okay, that didn't work out. See if I can make it. Okay. Okay, I think we have a bandwidth problem on the WebEx here. So I will continue. So this new computer in the vehicle, that will be a new central computer with a very high-performant processor from NVIDIA. And the purpose with that is support autonomous drive. So we're also working with Luminar, which is a LiDAR company. And here you can see in the picture what the LiDAR, so the LiDAR emitting laser pulses can scan in front of the vehicle and create a 3-dimensional view of the environment around it, and also combine that through sensor fusion with visual sensor and radar and also ultrasonic sensors. So what we wanted to do was to create a new platform that allows rapid functional growth. And we can also make the analog here with an iPhone, for example. If you have a 2-year-old iPhone, and you have never received a software update, you as a consumer would perceive that as an obsolete product. And traditionally, when the car is leaving the factory, it is as newest, and it is not so frequently updated software-wise after a delivery. But consumers, they demand frequent updates of functionality and also correction of some features. This is from the CES conference in 2019 in Las Vegas, and it shows the new car computer that we will have in the vehicle. So that will replace the previous traditional distributed computer architecture in the vehicle. So typically, a vehicle has well over 100 subcomputers in the vehicle or computers. So this is how the interior looks like in a brand new Volvo. You can see the displays here. So we have the central control displays here. And here we are now running applications. So all these vehicles will be connected to the Volvo Cars Cloud. And also all these applications will obviously, of course, have contact with the cloud. We also have sensors with sensor fusion capability. So we can tailor the customer experience through all these car sensors. So we can monitor the driving behavior, the usage of the infotainment system, usage of the mobility or the navigation systems. We're also looking into new sensors to monitor in-cabin activities. And we have, for example, one goal to detect intoxication. Because Volvo Cars, we want to create the safest vehicle. And if we can detect that the attention of the driver is not as it should, we can improve safety here. And of course, the smartphone will become an integral part with the vehicle and the cloud, because the smartphone knows a lot about you. And so we can go from customization to personalization. So in a vehicle, there is a lot of sensors. There are sensors everywhere for safety monitoring, for the drivetrain and convenience features. So we have these 5 categories of automotive sensor technologies to monitor the drivetrain, vehicle control and performance, personalization, safety, comfort, and also for the ADAS or the autonomous drive system. So all these sensors, they produce a tremendous amount of data. So in order to process this, we are applying different ways to do it: machine learning, artificial intelligence, etc. What is unique now with this new high-performance computer architecture is that we can do sensor fusion, and you can see that on this slide. So we can monitor the driver behavior through the vehicle sensors to the sensor fusion. And here we can combine the sensors from the mechatronic ring, and that is from all these over 100 computers in the vehicle, together with the interior and exterior cameras to do detection, identification, classification, and giving a context. We can create a timeline in the experience through this. And on that, we can create personalization logic. So this is showing a typical deep learning network through convolutional coding, how you can extract different features through various layers. So what I would like to emphasize is that for the intelligent and connected car, the future is within software. And traditionally, the OEM, so the car manufacturers, have outsourced all software to the tier ones. So when an OEM is buying an ECU, electrical control unit, the tier one is also doing the software. The challenge here is that when you have well over 100 ECUs in the vehicle, you get a problem to synchronize the software releases. So Now with this new central architecture, we still will have a lot of ECUs, but the OEM will take more responsibility of the software. And that means that we can very frequently perform software upgrade of the vehicle over there. This is just to show you that what was previously a differentiating factor is now a commodity. So mechanics, chassis, and electronics in a vehicle is today a commodity. What is really distinguishing what the consumer chooses is, of course, design, but also more important now what is coming into the software, data, and AI, which is creating new experiences. So what's happening now is that personalization and sensor fusion is coming together. In order to facilitate this work, we have, end of January, roughly 1 month ago, opened up a new innovation development portal at developer.volvocars.com, where we are exposing some of the APIs so that you can build your own apps on the Volvo Cars part of the Volvo Cars ecosystem. We will also have LiDAR datasets there for the Volvo XC40 recharge vehicle, the three-dimensional car module. And this showed that only in 4 days we got 125 apps developed using this API that we exposed. And now I think we have over 400 apps now that has been developed on this API. So please feel welcome to log into this developer.volvocars.com and try it out. Klaus mentioned earlier Mobility X Lab. So we of course working together with Mobility X Labs that is scanning the global market for startup companies. We are also working with Drive Tel Aviv in Israel, which is another accelerator hub. And in Israel, there's a lot of new startups, over 1,000 startups per year. So we get a selection of a few times per year of hundreds of different companies that we select and work with. So to summarize it here, the future is sustainable and electric. So the whole automotive industry, which is now 1.3 billion vehicles on the planet, we are contributing with roughly 10% of the global CO2 footprint. So we are an important stakeholder. And this is recognized in the automotive industry now. So there's a big shift now to going electric. And Volvo Cars is going to electrify all its vehicles. So to summarize it, what is important for Volvo Cars in the vision is to create a freedom to move in a personal, sustainable, and safe way. And innovation together with startup and partner cooperation is key for success. So we really want to create this win-win relationship here. Software will be an OEM's main assets, because a car manufacturer needs to frequently be able to update the software. It does not mean that the car manufacturer will develop all software, but the application software that is at the highest level in the software stack, what is creating the customer experience. And we also going away from a distributed computing architecture to a centralized computing architecture with 3 main components: the infotainment part, the central computer, and the autonomous drive computer. What we also will see in the next generation vehicles is really advanced multi-core system on chips at the heart of the central computer. And here we are collaborating with NVIDIA. So trillion operations per second, that is the new horsepower. Thanks a lot. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Michael. I think we can move into the Q&A part in just a minute. I'd just like your a few thoughts on the 4 areas that we addressed as well for the Mobility X Lab application from Volvo Cars side. But I'm also inviting Carolina Bjurehed here to join from the Volvo Cars Tech Fund. Maybe you can introduce yourself quickly as well.
Yes, hi, I'm Carolina. I work with the Volvo Car Technology Fund. That is sort of say the venture capital part of Volvo. We invest in really interesting startups, and we try to find the best of the best in order to make Volvo a leading automotive brand in the future. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So as I said, like Mobility X Lab, this focus or this application round, we focus on 4 areas: the affordable AI, electromobility, sensor software innovation, and in-cabin tech. And Michael, from your presentation, of course, we can derive all those areas from the presentations. Could you maybe share a few thoughts on the specific topics, like affordable AI? That's of course a focus on AI, and affordable meaning to cut down on the actual development cost. Can you give some background to that? Why is that important?
It's a question to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will see AI on 2 places, in the vehicle and also in the cloud. So all vehicles will be connected through 4G connection, and later on with 5G, of course, when that is being rolled out. So we will see AI both in the cloud and in the car. So the NVIDIA processor we have now in the vehicle, that will allow us to do, it has built-in AI capability hardware-wise. Affordable AI, of course, when you develop AI, what is most time-consuming is 2 things. One is to create a clean data set to train the AI. And I think most people working in AI, maybe 70% of their time is dedicated to just clean the data. So that's a challenge. The second challenge with training in AI is the sheer amount of iterations that you need to do. If you take, for example, autonomous drive, you can train your AI to detect a bike, and you need to do that many times in different scenarios. If, for example, suddenly a boy on a skateboard is crossing the street, the only thing the AI can do is to detect, well, this is a bike with 7% probability. If you have not trained your AI on the right categories, it cannot do the job. So what you want to do is to optimize training, essentially. And I think that's where affordability goes in. When you have these millions of different test scenarios, how can you really optimize your testing or training?
Perfect, thank you. And I think that goes for all the partners of Mobility X Lab. I think that's a huge part of the development cost, of course, creating the autonomous future. If we look at sensor software, I know, Carolina, you've been part of the investment in Luminar from Volvo Cars part. But like, if we're looking at sensor, what does the future hold there? I think you're muted. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. I think actually I need to ask Michael to answer that, because that's really not my area of expertise, the future of sensors. Michael, can you?
Yeah, I can elaborate a bit on that.
Thank you.
Before doing that, I could just elaborate a bit on the affordable AI. There are 2 ways to train AI. One is with recorded video, and the one is using synthetic video. You cannot do failure injection when you train an AI using recorded videos. But using synthetic data, you can actually test the robustness of the AI. So that was the final answer also to the AI. Going into the sensor fusion domain, what will happen now is that we will see different changes in the sensor technology. One is there will be more sensors in the vehicle. Each sensor will have more temporal and spatial resolution. And what does that mean? That means that they produce way much more data per sensor, and there are more sensors. So that's also why I mentioned that TOPS is the new horsepower. You need a lot of computational capability within the vehicle just to be able to process this sheer amount of data. And you need to reserve growth for future growth as well. Because we can see an exponential increase of data, computational power, memory footprints ahead of us.
Good. I just want to touch as well on the in-cabin tech. Like Michael, you said that personalization, huge for Volvo cars, of course. How does that apply like in the cabin and for the future as well? We know that there's a driver right now, but what's the next step as well?
So when we're talking about the in-cabin tech, maybe the most commonly known is when you sit in the vehicle and you experience the infotainment system. That is, of course, one obvious in-cabin tech. But there are also a lot of other sensors in the vehicle that is keeping track of what you're doing in order to create a more personal and safe experience. So as I showed now in the slides here, we have sensors monitoring your driving behavior. In the future, we will also put in a driver monitoring system camera that will monitor your eye and face. So that can detect intoxication and also tiredness. Because it can measure the frequency of your eye openings and also the speed of your eye opening to see if you're tired. So there is a lot of sensors inside the cabin as well. And unfortunately, I'm limited to what I can speak with. I'm not allowed to talk about common product features by our communication office, because our coming product features will be communicated through press releases at the appropriate time. But what I can say is that we have a lot of very interesting in-cabin tech and also other interesting tech within the vehicle in the pipeline.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see, like, okay, what does all these new sensor, what does that kind of give what new use cases can you derive from that, and what new technology can startups combine your hardware with, and that's a super interesting thought, and why we are focusing on in-cabin tech as well. I know that that Union, you've gotten a lot of questions on the electrification or electromobility part, so I think I'll skip that part and maybe hand over to you for the FAQ, and let's moderate that and see if there's any questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of new questions as well on the chat. Should we start with the electromobility then? Or should we, yeah, all right. So in the electromobility, what mode of transport do you cover? Do you, for example, cover mass rapid transit system as well?
Should I take it, Karina?
Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah,
You did
okay.
the questions.
Yeah. So there are one course is doing, of course, the traditional to manufacture vehicles, but we're also looking into two different other business model. One is called Care by Volvo. That is similar to a kind of a leasing concept, and we also have M, which stands for mobility. That's another business concept. You can say it's more connected to shared mobility. It's similar to when you book an e-bike, but you book a vehicle instead for 1 day or 2 days or whatever you need it for. So that is on trial now in different cities. and if depending how it plays out, it will be scaled up on a bigger scale. We are not, of course, in the e-bike business, but we are looking in how we can collaborate with cities to create a better mobility solutions, because in the future the cities will be even more densified, and cars will not be allowed, at least not internal combustion engine vehicles will not be allowed in the city center. So the future is pure electric. So we need to collaborate with cities. We need also to make the vehicles more connected to the city's systems. For example, if you want to find a charging station within a vehicle, your vehicle needs to be connected to improve the charging experience. And of course, the customer, what that customer cares of is going from A to B, and it could be through a multimodal experience where car is only one means of transportation, but maybe you need to take the car into a hub, change mode of transportation to maybe public transportation to really enter the city center, and maybe take an e-bike the last few hundred meters or kilometers.
Very interesting. So you're looking into all possibilities of supply chain for available batteries and motors as well.
Mm.
And do you think these mobility or infrastructure, can this be applied in rural areas as well as urban areas, you think?
Can you elaborate on the question? I can give a better answer.
Yeah. So mobility in the rural segment is different from the urban side.
Yes.
Because urban comes with well-designed infrastructure, but can the urban solution be addressed to the rural transportation as well?
I think there will be different needs actually from rural areas. And one big difference, I think now, since when we're going now go from internal combustion engines to electrical vehicles, the pressure on the electrical charging infrastructure would be much higher. And I can imagine that getting a good coverage in the rural areas will be a challenge. So that is being looked at. But here we need to collaborate with charging operators and governments and cities to build up this charging network.
Yeah. Let me go back to a more general question that was received on the chat. So how will all the IP be managed when you
mean intellectual property rights?
Yes.
Or yeah?
Yeah, when you are on Mobility X Lab. Maybe it's a question to Claes, or yeah?
And let Carolina have a few thoughts on that.
Actually, I don't have a good answer on that. I'm thinking about how we haven't had any issues there yet. I mean, if we regulate that, actually I don't have a good question because we haven't had that discussion. Claes?
Yeah, like we, from Mobility X Lab standpoint, we of course acknowledge that there is always a discussion on the IP. We as Mobility X Lab, we don't really take a standpoint in that discussion. It's always like company to company discussion. So the startup and the partner having that IP discussion together. But what we do have, like given that we have several partners, sometimes we have projects where there's several partners engaging with one startup at the same time. Then we have a special like IP agreement between all the partners and the startup. And of course, we do see that there's a increased or there's always a risk for a startup engaging with a corporate partner. What we see when we have Mobility X Lab is that we have kind of different playing rules here than you have outside Mobility X Lab. So the startup is always taken care of in terms of an IP regulation that's pretty beneficial for a startup.
I mean, yeah, from Volvo side, we always like we regulate this with agreements. If we come to a point where this is crucial and we need to sort that out, we sort it out with an agreement. But it's more like a case by case thing. So.
Yeah. So can I elaborate? I think what you're after here. The first thing we do when we're introduced into a new startup company is to assess whether we think there is a kind of a mutual benefit. If that is the case, then we sign a non-disclosure agreement. That means that the background IPR is protected from the startup companies. We meet two types of startup companies. The one that only wants to sell their product or services through Volvo Cars. And also the other category is the companies that would like also to see investment from Volvo Cars. So if Volvo Cars is going in to invest in a startup companies, of course, the company is retaining their background IPR. So I think this is what the startup companies wants to hear. So patent is one good way to protect that when you're entering into a partnership. At least that you have started your patent process.
If we go back to the more general question about the application process and the evaluation process, there was one chat question that says, so there's a validation and co-development process of 6 to 12 months. Would that only happen in the center, or would that also happen remotely from India?
We have this pandemic right now, and before the pandemic, we always invited startups to join us here in Gothenburg on a need basis, of course, but no mandatory physical presence required. That was the used to be state. Now we run a completely virtual program, so you don't have any requirements of traveling to Sweden, and given that the startups that we usually work with or the partners work with, they're kind of data and computer heavy, a lot of things can be done remotely, and as Michael talked about earlier as well, Volvo Cars just open up a huge API library, for example, or data sharing library. So there's new ways of co-developing together.
Great. Sounds good. So one more question from the chat. They're interested to know more about the sensor fusion, especially the optical cameras and LiDAR. LiDAR.
Yeah, it's a LiDAR. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every company that would like to collaborate with Volvo Cars in any of these domains, please contact Mobility X Labs, and they will then contact Volvo Cars.
Is Volvo Car planning to convert any of its old IC engines or to electric EVs?
Yeah, I mean, we have essentially three categories of drivetrain now. We have internal combustion engines, or ICE vehicles. We have PHEV, so this is the hybrid. That is when you have small electrical engine and also an internal combustion engine combined. And then we have the pure electrical, which we call the BEV vehicle. The trend is clearly to a pure electric vehicle, but during a transition period, we will also see hybrid vehicles. And at least in the European Union, PHEVs will be supported until the year 2026 by European Union, and after that, I think the classification will change also for PHEVs, which will further accelerate the pure electric.
Good. And also there is an AI company, Indian AI company, that are currently focusing on Indian market only. So they're developing languages in Indian. However, they have plans to expand globally next year. Would a company like this also interest you?
Absolutely. Send your pitch to Mobility X Labs with your offer, and then we make an assessment.
We can say that it's more difficult when your product is not global, I would say. At least if I like look from my point of view, it's not impossible, but it makes it harder actually. So you need to have a very strong plan in order to create traction in the company. And if we ever are going to invest, it's very, very important that you have a global approach.
Yeah. Pitching in here as well, and Carolina, can you share some views again on like on what you're looking for in terms of the company specifics as well? Like what's a good Mobility X Lab startup like?
You need to have a very interesting idea, of course. What that is it's more difficult to say. There could be the most. It could be anything, but it needs to attract us. So you need to be very good at pitching. That I can say. If you lose our interest, that makes it harder, even if you have a great idea. To create a great pitch, and from my point of view, the team is very important. To see that it is a strong team, a dedicated team that have a plan for how to actually generate revenue is very important. And so you need to think things through, and need to think global. Of course, you always start with your own market, but you need to think bigger than that. And the last thing is that it's very important that you have a focus and don't do 10 different things. Focus on 1-2 areas or things you can use your technology on, and go for that. Don't go for 10 different things.
I have an add-on question, Shubhang from Business, Michael and Carolina. So, I mean, yes, kind of, you guys are from Volvo and representing Volvo, so there is a certain strategy you have, right, of working with new technology or new startups. But if some of these startups probably, but Mobility X is more of a general platform. But if some of these technologies do not actually align with Volvo's strategy over the next 5 years, right? Is Mobility X still a good platform to come on if they kind of, match some of these focus areas we have defined?
I mean, the startups can always challenge us. I mean, even if they are not what you believe is a perfect match, they could be the perfect match in the future. I mean, it depends on. We try to be very open-minded, and we are very innovative, as was Michael presented to us. So don't hesitate. It's like, try us. You might be surprised.
And you don't only have Volvo Cars in Mobility X Labs. You have several different partners as well, from Ericsson, Veoneer, and Sensact, etc.
Thank you.
That was exactly what I was going to fill in. So of course, like if you don't feel like Volvo Cars is the perfect customer, but Ericsson or Sensact could be, then of course you should apply. Like we And that's the kind of the beauty with Mobility X Lab as well. Like you don't really need to meet all the partners. The crucial thing is that you find at least 2 partners that are interested in working with you.
And how does the partner collaborate with each other? Do you have a very close relationship? Yeah, the partners. You also use each other's technologies?
That's definitely a possibility to do joint projects together with the startup via Mobility X Lab, and we have done that. Not that many, but we hope that we can do more out of that actually, because then you have 2, 3 big players and a startup. I mean, that could be magic actually. I don't know what you say about that, Klaus, but we would like to do more of that, right?
Yeah, like we know there's a lot of like customer relations between the partners today as well. Like we see a lot of between corporate collaborations, but looking at Mobility X Lab specific, we've done a number of projects with the partners, like 6 of them in one project, for example. So that is exactly like Carolina says, we're keen on getting more of those, and like this setup where we have startups that are have interest from more partners at the same time. That of course gives us a golden opportunity. And I think as a startup, one thing that we are looking at for startups in their application is that you think about what kind of use case does this setup enable me to do? Like, so if you have Veoneer, Volvo Cars, and Ericsson joining in a project, what could that setup allow us to do as a startup? And maybe there's a new use case or a technology that we can test that we couldn't done otherwise. So a few thoughts on that is always good to see from a startup.
We have a lot of detailed questions that we probably cannot cover all here, but I have one last question. We have 2 minutes left. So if there are competing technologies applying, what would be the winning factors? Who would you choose?
But then we can Michael, we can answer this together, I think, because we have different angles on this. But for me, it comes down to the team, to the pitch, how you present it. Of course, it needs to fit Volvo, but say that both fits Volvo perfectly. It comes down to that. How you pitch it, the team, how you present yourself.
You only choose one of them.
I mean, if we can choose 2, of course we do that. But if we need to take one of them, that's what it comes down to. So Michael, what do you say?
I would also look on the technology readiness level scale. So we are applying this commonly known TRL scale from 1 to 9, where 1 is the most immature technology and 9 is flight proven technology. We would probably not take startup companies at TRL level 1 or 2, but maybe 3 to 5. So the maturity of the technology is of course of importance, because that's a risk factor. Obviously, you need to assess the potential of the technology as well. So the short answer is it depends. If you find a very low TRL level, but the potential is huge, then we of course would be interested on it. If we find a higher TRL level that we see that we could shortly put this in production, that would also be of interest. So it depends. Another assessment criteria as well is that in the past, the automotive industry has assessed versus quality and cost. But the third criteria coming in now, very strong, is sustainability. If your technology is sustainable or can improve sustainable at a system level, that is of course very appreciated.
Very good. We have one company here that's doing a green charging solution for a phone inside the car. So I'll look forward to that application.
Yeah, we have a huge energy transformation in society right now going on, affecting not only the vehicles, but the entire society. We can see that, for example, in the European Union, the Green Deal, which is investing well over 1 trillion euro now in new green technologies. And the same is happening now elsewhere. So there's a very, very strong push on sustainable technologies now.
Yeah, so we welcome all of your application. We have a special link for the Indian startup to apply for Mobility X Lab. So please apply. We will also leave the link to the application site on the chat. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for joining today and taking your time. Yeah, let's meet again through pitching sessions.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Klaus, Michael, and Carolina. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.